protein will make you beefier, but these 4 tips will make your mixes beefier. What's up guys? My name is Matthias and I produce music under the name of Elegance. This is my new tutorial series in which I will cover a variety of music production topics, from mixing, mastering to sound design and much more. We can also cover topics like YouTube and social media. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified on new uploads. Without further ado, let's begin with the tutorial. So when I use EGO, I like to think my track as this group of different elements. And in good mix, every element should have their own place in the mix. With EGO, we can try to separate all the elements by cutting and boosting. And what I mean is that you have your bass sounds, and then you have your kick sound, and then you have your synth sounds and leads, and then white noise and effects and stuff like that. When you add different sounds, you should always think where you want to place that sound in your spectrum. Like for the synth sounds, they are somewhere in the middle. So on those sounds you should try to cut the lows and maybe boost a little bit on the highs, but keep it mainly on the mid. And for leads, you should try to boost them on the high frequencies and cut them on the low frequencies. That way your mixes tend to sound much more clearer and everything seems to have their nice own space in the mix. The second tip is to cut narrow and boost wide. And what that means is when you're looking at your spectrum, when you want to take away certain part of the sound, you want to create a narrow peak on your EQ so that you only take away the frequencies that you don't want. But when you are boosting your frequencies, you should use wider EQ so you get more natural sound on your boost. Also, a little thing to take in consideration is that your EQ is not linear. And what that means is that the frequencies on the low end are a little bit wider than on the high end, and because of that, on the low end you should generally use a little bit wider cues, wider boosts or wider cuts than on the high end where you should use a little bit narrower cues. Before we continue with the tips, I want to remind you guys that you should always apply the advice, and after this tutorial I recommend that you go to your DAW and try to practice these tips so they actually stuck with you and you get some value out of this tutorial. Also be sure to subscribe and hit the bell. But yeah, let's continue. My third tip, and this is kinda controversial, is to cut lows on everything. And yep, I know it sounds kind of bad to some people, but what I mean is that pretty much always, except maybe on some organic instruments, you should try to cut out the unnecessary low end from your instruments. And I think this is one of the biggest things that improved my mixes when I started doing it a few years ago. The way you should go about this is to create high pass and then raise it until you hear the change in the sound, and then back it a little bit so the effect isn't too drastic and you don't actually lose the body of the sound. But if there's any noise or something, just take it away from your instruments. Maybe on some of the organic instruments you shouldn't do a clear cut, but maybe bring down the level of the noise and the unwanted frequencies. The last tip is don't solo your EQ. And I know you are trying to get precise and get the best sound and create the perfect instrument, but I think it's much better for your mixes if you try to mix your track instead of your instruments. If you solo the instrument that you are trying to EQ, you might make changes that actually make the track worse. And what's the point then? Try to do your EQs with the other sounds playing on the background. That way you get realistic feedback on how the changes are affecting your track. That's it for this video. I hope you found these 4 tips useful. And if you guys have any good advice on the EQ that I didn't mention, please make sure to share it on the comment section, because that benefits us all. And as I said, make sure to subscribe and click the bell for the next episode. And that's pretty much it. See you guys on next week's episode.